Hi, everyone. I'm Chris Boosalis, and I titled this workshop, and I'm probably going to regret it, Fun with Excel. Because I don't know if there's any such thing as fun with Excel. No, there is. So let me just start screen sharing and talking about what I intend to do today. And the first thing that I want to say is I wouldn't try to my email. Oh, I hope you can see my screen right here. Is that I highly recommend not following along. I'm going to start with a blank Excel sheet and walk through a number of things that I think will be helpful. These are things that my graduate students told me that I'm advising and working with have been very helpful. So that's what I'm going to pass on to you today. I said that I was going to do a number of other things today, and those are already recorded. I've already recorded everything that I said that I was going to do on this series of videos right here. I'll put the link to these videos in the chat, and I'm going to do that right now. And I recommend that maybe after you watch what I do today, that you then watch the videos that I'm posting and that Lisa and Baja. I don't know who else is on the ERI committee, so forgive me if I'm skipping anyone. I don't mean to. It's not a slight or anything. But did you watch them afterward? I think that would be very helpful. And I would watch them in order. Watch the first one to see if you even want to watch the rest of them. There's some things that I think are very useful in here. Part of this overview will help you to generate descriptive statistics. I'll show you that today. One thing I'm not going to do is join two tables together. This is very useful if you have pre and post test scores on two different Excel sheets that you want to unite. That's when you would use something like this. Or if, as I did, I took survey data that's fake and assessment data that are fake, and I merged them together into one sheet. And it's very easy to do, but it's helpful, I think, if somebody shows you. And then in the last video, that's the longest video, I go over some very simple stats with Excel, and I generate all of the things that I describe in here. And if you're curious, in each one of the videos, you can find the finished file right in the description. So if you want to have a look at the finished file that I use, you can download it right in the description. This does come with closed captioning. I'm going to play this through just a little bit and put on the closed captioning. And the captions are also available to you in the transcript. I want to mention that the transcript might not be as accurate as we would like. So if any members of the deaf faculty or deaf community find that the translations or the transcriptions are very, very poor, let me know. And then I'll just post it on MediaSite, and I'll have MediaSite have a human do the transcription. But I'm hoping that my accent is not so awful that the AI software was able to pick it up. So again, what I'd recommend you do is just watch me create some of the things in here. And after I do each one, maybe I'll pause and take questions. I'm wondering if I run long and you can't stay, you're free to go, but maybe we can just keep the recording going until I'm done. If that's not possible, that's quite all right. So let me get to the getting here. And I don't plan on looking at the chat, by the way. If at any point I'm going too fast for the interpreters or people are getting lost, then I would like either Baja or Lisa to just jump in and stop me. Go ahead and do so verbally, but I'll get distracted by the chat. I know myself. So anyway.
Chris, I'll monitor the chat, and if people post questions, I'll try to, carefully interrupt. And
sounds great. Or just, I can see you, Lisa. So just turn your camera on and wave at me, and I'll stop or something like that. Or put your hand up, and I'll pause.
Okay, that sounds good.
Great. So let me show you what I'm going to show you what I want to do today. And as I said, my graduate students said that they found this to be useful. So blame them if it isn't. I'm kidding. I also understand that this is the first time that we're doing this. So if it fails, I'll have set the bar pretty low for the next person. So, thank me later. Anyway, I want to show you how to generate fake data for practice, because this is often useful to you, and it doesn't take that long, but I want to show you how to do it for assessment data, and then how to paste it without the formulas so that we can actually work with this thing. And I'll do the same thing for survey data, as you see in here. After that, I want to take the survey data and do descriptive statistics on it. It's not, I should have done it with the assessment data, to be perfectly frank. It would have been more meaningful, but you get what you get. And so I'll show you how to generate this table right here automatically for each one of the survey items. And then we need to make some changes to it. And I'll show you how to make changes to the auto-generated data set. After that, I'm going to show you how to use Transpose in order to make a table that is a little bit more friendly. And then after that, I'm going to show you how to move toward making something that could be converted into an APA table that looks like this. I'm not going to do an APA table. I should have, but that'll be for another day. How about that? And then I'll show you how to generate a simple chart that captures the means of our survey data. And then I'll also show you how to vary the bar chart colors and change a scale too, and so that you can change it from 1 to 4, or as I've done it poorly here, 4 to 1. Well, there's 4 to 1 odds that this will be an okay presentation. Then I want to show you how to generate some survey charts that are particular to frequency counts. And generating frequency numbers it's not difficult, but it is helpful. I haven't found an automated way to do this. You still have to go through and create a frequency chart. And I'm going to use I'll show you some formulas, and they're really tiny on the screen. So I will try to use our friend Notepad here to increase the screen size so you can see how I'm doing this. This may look a little different from what you're accustomed to, but these are these lock cells and lock rows, and you have to do that for certain operations to make things easier. But anyway, I'll show you how to create a frequency chart. And then I'll show you how to do the same thing to create same thing for percentages. And that's what I've done in here. I've created a percentage chart, and that enables you to then do a chart that looks like this. So from table to chart for percentages, and from table to chart for frequencies. And then the assessment tests. I'll show you how to do a simple correlation that unfortunately doesn't give us very much information if you just use the automated feature. The regression is what really gives you the most information. So I'll show you how to do this. But the regression is the one that's most useful, because in the summary output, you can see that you get quite a bit of information about your R square, for example. You even get an ANOVA out of this, and you are able to look at the slope, the intercept, and the p-value. It's not. You'll see that none of this is significant because I generated random numbers, and so when it does that, it tends not to skew anything too far any direction. And for those of you who really want to get nerdy with this, you do get residuals and probabilities, and you get some fun little charts that you see here, and residual plots right there, and blah, 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 blah. So this is Excel. And as I said, I'm going to start with a blank sheet. I'm going to start by generating some of the fake data so you can see how to do that. And I want to also say that, this is between, if you're a graduate student, this is really between you and your advisor about whether or not Excel is accurate enough to be used for your thesis or your dissertation. Okay, so that's really all I have to say about that. I am getting pretty good at using SPSS and Qualtrics together, and the syntax files for surveys. And maybe later on, we'll want to do a presentation on that so that you can make a choice about whether or not you'd prefer to do SPSS or Excel. I was asked to do an R tutorial. I mean, I can still do that. But I personally have found that that SPSS and Excel are good enough for what I do, even though R is a blast. All right, my friends, here we go. So first thing that I need to do in here is create some fake data. So this is going to be, and you can see I'm just clicking down here on the sheet. I mean, I'm going to rename it assessment because I want fake assessment scores in here. And let's say that I want to have fake assessment scores for 5 different assessments. Now, notice that I am pasting away from the edge right here. And I'm going to tell you why I tend to do that. I tend to do that because I don't know the alphabet. I tend to do that because sometimes when you hide rows and you hide columns, it just gets to be a pain. So once I'm finished with a sheet, if I'm going to use it, then I will take the time to delete out these columns. But I just like to move things over a little bit. And so let's go ahead and generate some, let's generate some student ID numbers that are also fake here. And I will simply enter, that's not what I wanted. I'll enter there, that'll be fine because it's all fake. No, that's not fine. Just give me a moment. See, I said fun with Excel and I'd regret that immediately. I'm already regretting it. So I'm going to start with this. My apologies to the interpreter. You must be going insane, Chris. I'm gonna let you catch up. Okay. So I've entered a number in and I'm going to just drag this thing down to, let's say we've got 500 students. There's an arrow here. I'm going to fill the series. And so that's going to give me some nice student ID numbers. Now for my assessments, what I want to do is I want to use a formula for this. I'm going to put the formula up on the screen here. And what I want to do for my test scores, because I want them to be real numbers and not Likert scale, is I'm going to use a function or a formula actually that's called rand between. And rand between, and I want it to be between 100 and 1,000. And I'm going to divide by 10, which is going to mean that I'm going to get decimal numbers that'll go from like 10 all the way up to 100. And I'll show you how that works. So I'm going to grab that formula as you see that I've done right here, and I'm going to go ahead and paste that in. Just give me one moment. It looks like I'm having a little degree of difficulty here. Oops, and I'm just a moment. Sorry. I'm going to grab it from my list of formulas, and let me put that back wherever that was. Okay. This is going to, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, but as you do that, could you just clarify how you're grabbing that formula from your list of formulas? I'm just not clear on how you're getting the rand between.
Oh, okay. So that's a really good question. And I pre-populated my Excel sheet with the formulas. And so I appreciate that question, because in reality, this is how it would be. You go up to your formula bar and and I'm going to provide you with all of the formulas so you can copy and paste as I did, but you put in an equal sign and then you type in the formula name, rand between, and you can see it right here, rand between. So if I double click it, and I know it's really hard to see this tiny print, I can't make it any bigger. So if you're watching on your computer screen, I think if you hit Control plus if you're on a PC or Command plus on a Mac, it will increase your screen size so you can actually see this. But whenever you type a formula into Excel, it's going to prompt you for what you want. And I want the bottom number right here to be 100. And I want the top number here to be 1,000. And I know this because I've done this a bunch of times. And then you close the parens. Now, if I leave it there, it's going to give me a bunch of random numbers between 1 and 1,000, but I want to divide that by 10, and let's see what we get. I get a 60. I don't get a fraction out of it, but I get a 60. So that's how that works. Lisa, go ahead.
I just wanted to add one more thing that might be helpful for people, if you don't mind, Chris. So if you know the formula, do it just like Chris says. As soon as you put an equal sign, it knows you're going to put in some kind of formula. If you're like, oh, I can't remember what Chris said, but it was maybe rand something, the little sign up there that says FX, like formula, if you click on that, it gives you a list of formulas, and it actually gives them like in categories. So you can sort of, go back and see what maybe it was. Anyway, sorry, Chris.
Thank you. No,
for beginners, that might be a helpful tip.
Absolutely. In fact, that's very helpful to me too. So thank you. I'm not, an Excel god or goddess by any means. So, you all will know easier ways to do things, and feel free to chime in. I'm fine with that. I don't have to be the greatest.
I think your way is actually easier, but I find that I frequently can't remember exactly what it was. And then that's a way of, if I kind of remember. Okay.
Also, you can Google and Excel formulas, and you'll find more formulas than you need. Now, you see, I just grabbed that little handle and dragged this down, and generated a whole bunch of random numbers, as you see in here. And so I'll try to go back up to the top as quickly as I can. And you can clean this up a little bit if you'd like. You just highlight the column like this, and then and you can adjust the decimals if you change this to a number. But right now, I really can't do that, because it is, if I just go up here to the formulas tab and I show you formulas, it will show you all the formulas that you used. And so we have to do something with this in order to make it useful. So this is like the first step in what we're doing. All right, I'm looking at my time. I better hurry up here and get to the getting. So let me turn off the formulas, the show formulas. And now what I'm going to show you how to do is to populate everything across. Now, we can just go ahead and grab the boxes you see here, just like I've done, and just give me a moment. As you see, I'm not perfect at Excel here. I should just go over to the side, and I want to be able to see all of you. I'm going to highlight I'm going to highlight this whole column all the way down, so I can just drag it all the way across. And so I'm going to go up to View. I'm going to freeze the top row, and that way I can scroll down if I need to. There is a way that you can do this with a command to copy all the way down the cell, or a key click, but I just find it easier. Notice that every time I do it, it recalculates, because it's all random numbers. And so you can see I've created all the random numbers that I need. Now, as I mentioned, this table is one that now has formulas in it, and I'm going to show you that. So if I show you the formulas, that's what all the formulas look like, and I have to make this useful. So here's how I'm going to do that. Click on the first cell at the top. On the PC, I'm going to go Control Shift. I believe it's Command Shift on the Mac, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm going to highlight all the way down, and then I'm going to use a left arrow, or a right arrow, excuse me, to highlight all the way across. I'm going to go ahead and right click and copy. You could also Control C or Command C to copy. And I'm going to move over to M, and I'm going to use Control V or right click. That's probably easier. I'm going to right click and paste values. So when I paste the values, that's how I make this useful. Let me just mouse over here so you can see this, and try to expand some of the lines. I'm going to go to Home. I'm going to go under Format, and I'm going to auto fit column width. And oops, I'm going to go over to Format, and I'm going to go to auto fit column width. And now we can see what we're doing. Okay, so let me show you what the difference is. If I go back up to Formulas and I click on Show Formulas, all of the formulas are over here. You can't really do much with them. You have to convert everything to to a value, because look, there are no formulas here, and that's exactly what we want. I am now, sometimes it's helpful to highlight your top row in bold for creating tables and some other things. It'll recognize these as column headers, excuse me. But I'm just going to highlight all the way across and change all these to numbers. So underneath this arrow right here, you have general, where you could have a mix of numbers and letters. But what I want to have are numbers. And so I'm just going to select number. And now Excel knows that this is a number. And I'm going to change these to, I want a couple of decimal places in there. And let's see if it'll cooperate. And of course it isn't cooperating. And I don't know why it's not cooperating. Let me see. Maybe I have to go in here. Well, as I said, fun with Excel. So it's a barrel of laughs, but it looks like it's all I wanted to do is show 2 decimal places. That's all I want, but it wouldn't let me do that. All right. From this list here, what I want to do is to generate descriptive statistics. And I want to do it in a really easy, simple way. And then I'm going to create some useful tables out of it. In order to do that, I'm going to go up to my data tab and click on it. And I'm going to go all the way over to analysis, where you see I've added something called data analysis. And that's how you are able to do all your calculations. It doesn't appear standard on your ribbon. What you have to do either on a Mac or a PC is go all the way over to File and click on File. And then you got to mouse all the way down to Options. When you select Options, you're going to get a window that looks like this. Now, some of you know what I'm going to do, and you're already bored. You're already bored with Rand Between, but others might be looking at this saying, oh my goodness, what am I doing? I might break something. No, you won't, because you called Binode if you do. Is he on today? Anyway, so I'm under the general. So I just went to File and Options. Now we go down to Add-ins right here. And when you click on Add-ins, there are a couple of different items that you can add. You can add the analysis tool pack, for example, and you select it. I'm not going to do anything else. Well, maybe I will. I'll click on Go. So you select the analysis tool pack, then you select Go. And now you can see, and again, this print is so tiny, that you can select analysis tool pack or analysis tool pack with coding and Euro currency solver and our currency tools, blah, blah, blah. So you want to select analysis tool pack and you click on OK. And once you do that, then this group appears right here. The data analysis group appears. So here is what I want to show you. I can't run the analysis on formulas. I have to create and copy over my table to convert it into values. There are other uses for this that I'll mention really quickly, and that is if you have a mix of numbers and texts, you can, like if you've got, for whatever reason, 100 is treated as text and everything else is numerical, you can use a formula to convert things to values, but then you still have to copy everything and paste as values because Excel will not work on a formula. So let me get back to what we're doing. Sorry for the digression. I want to generate some stats for this data set right here. And once you have the data analysis tool pack installed, you see that there are a number of statistical tests that you could run. You can run ANOVAs, correlations, you can calculate the covariance, you can do what we're going to do, which is descriptive statistics. There are other things that you can do in here. And I want to tell you that, you know, you have a whole cornucopia of tutorials that you can find on YouTube's or Google's that people will walk you through how to do this. And that's how I've learned most of the things I've done. And so really this is all a collection of years of YouTube tutorials. But anyway, I select descriptive statistics. I'm going to go over here to OK. And now I get a dialog box and I'm looking at my dialog box. I have to put in an input range, meaning a range on this table for what I want to do. I always leave it grouped by columns because that's how my data are presented. If it were presented in rows, then you could select rows, but everything is grouped by column. I'm going to go to labels in first row because that is the case. And now the worksheet, I'm going to put in here assessment descriptives. Now I did this for the survey descriptives, but I think that this is going to be much more meaningful if we do it on the assessment. And I'm going to go ahead and calculate everything. I want the summary statistics, confidence interval for the mean, and the K largest and K smallest. And I am going to, excuse me, I need to clear my throat. One moment. I don't want to do it in your ear. I'd rather not play stump the professor on, well, you know, what exactly is the K largest and smallest and everything? If we could save that for another time, that would be great. I'm actually behind. But now look, just notice what I've done. I've selected labels in first row. I've selected off everything that I want. Now I got to give it the input range. And so I click on that up arrow, as you see right here. And once I've done that, I get a dialog box that looks like this. And so all I got to do is just select all the way down. I know there are easier ways to do this, but I'm just going to do it this way. I've selected everything that I want, click the down arrow again, and now what I need to do is simply click OK. So what have I done? I have selected my columns that I want. I've selected the numbers that I want. I've selected labels in first row. I've selected my summary statistics and everything else that I want to see, and I'm going to click on OK. And now this Excel has generated a table of all of the standard descriptive statistics that we'll want to see. Now, it is a little hard to read, and so that's why I often will, as I said, I'll insert some columns in here, and all I do is just highlight the column, right click and insert, you know, to move that over. You can also do like this and click on insert. It'll bump it over even more. So that's sufficient. And what I need to do next is we got to make this a little more readable. So I'll just highlight that whole table, go to home. I'm going to go over to format, click the down arrow, and auto fit the column width. And great, now we have an auto-fitted column width. We have a table that we can read. Now, I want to get this closer to being something that we can actually work with, and maybe even use in in a thesis, a dissertation, or a paper. And right now, it really isn't. So these are the types of things that you need to do. First, you got to copy the table and make sure you grab all of the elements. And I'm going to do that by highlighting it, hitting Control C, and going down a few rows. I'll go down to row 25, and I'm going to paste it in. And the reason I do that is because I never want to touch the original data. All right, I never want to touch the original data, so I copy it and I move down here. So let me show you what we're going to do next. So what I'm going to do first on this table that was auto-generated is I'm going to delete out the top row, as you saw that I just did there. And the next thing that I need to do on that table is this. I have to put this into a form that is more readable. And here's how I'm going to do that. Again, I'm going to highlight these columns just like you see here, and I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to move down, let's say, to row number 50. Let's see. And I'm going to paste, but this time I'm going to go to paste special. And under paste special is a little thing called transpose. And so I am going to transpose this table into a format that is a little bit easier to read. And even though it doesn't look like it, it is actually easier to read. So I'm going to go ahead and transpose that. And I've done so. And that's fantastic. We're quite happy with this. Now, the next thing that I need to do on this table is I really need to clean this thing up. If you notice, I have a lot of repeated information in here. I have repeated information that is going over and over again. Excuse me, one moment. Let me just check my my handout. Okay. I have repeated, assessments in here that go over and over and over and over again, and that isn't really all that helpful. So I have to clean this up somehow, and in order to do that, what I need to do is this. I'm going to highlight this top row all the way across, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to use that as my my header up here, and go ahead and put it in as you see right there. And I want this column to be labeled assessment. That's what I want. After having done that, let's see if I'm making a mistake here. This is going to become, excuse me. This will become these items at the top are going to become my column headers. And so again, I need to clean this thing up to make it a little more readable. And that's what I'm going to do. So in this part of the table, I'm going to do the following. Actually, I want to highlight everything that you see in here. And so I'm going to highlight this area right here, and this should make sense after I make the change that I'm going to make. I'm going to go up to where it says filter, and so I'm going to go up to data, and click on filter, and this. You have reached the maximum time permitted to record. To send your message, press 1 at a. I don't know who's producing this show, but they really ought to be fired. All right, moving on. I go ahead and I highlight the whole table. I click on filter, and now I will click on my little down arrow here. And this should filter all the way across. If it doesn't, then I'm going to have to do one additional operation, and we'll see if this works. I only want to see mean, and let's see what that looks like. That's great. What I want to do in here is I want to go ahead and delete out all of this repeated information in here. And I'm going to see if it'll allow me to do that. I'm going to copy all the way across because I only want my column headers. I don't want anything else. And I'm going to get rid of this repeated information, and I'm going to go delete row. Now, this might take out my assessments. That's okay, because I can put those back in. I'm going to click on OK, and it unfortunately removed my assessments. As I said, I can drop those back in, but let me show you what this table looks like now. If I go ahead and select this out, now I've got everything lined up pretty nice. It looks a lot better than it did. And so I'm going to type in assessment 1, and I should be able to just misspell the word and fix it. I should be able to just drag this down and the numbers should increment, and they did. Let me highlight all the way across here. Let me unfilter this, and now we have a table that looks a little better. These row highlights that you see in here, I like to get rid of those. And so I'll go up to home, and I'm going to get rid of all of them so that there are no borders or anything on there. The next thing that I want to do with this little table of ours is just marvel at it. Isn't it nice? It really is. It looks really good. Now, as I was saying, I would like to have everything look like a percent in here. So let me do that just up to the standard deviation. Let me select off these columns right here, or not a percent rather. I want it to look, I wanted just 2 decimal places. And so I don't know why this thing won't allow me to change. Oh, it does. Good. I'm just going to shrink these down to 2 decimal places, as you see me doing right here. Why? Oh, I don't know. Why not? Because maybe someday you'll have to do the same thing. There you go. All right.
AER format is 2 decimal places, so it's a perfect thing to teach the students on here.
Wonderful. Very good. And the next thing that we can do with this is we can center things up if need be. We can also center up the columns, or pardon me, the data that are in here. And there you go. So we're getting closer to what you could make out of this to make it be an APA like table. If the closest that I really could come to doing something that looked marginally acceptable was this, just highlighting all the way across and then going up to our friend bottom border and top border, which gives us some borders that look like this. Another thing that really helps is if we do this, we go up to view and we turn off the grid lines. Sometimes it's helpful to do that. And now we've got something that is approaching maybe what we want to look that'll look useful to us. Notice way over in the corner, I still have some cleaning up to do. So I'm going to get rid of these borders right here. Let me go to no border. I've removed them. And now what we have to do is just add in a bottom border right here, and I'll do that like this. And so you just have to look at examples and see what's going to work. If it looks like it's going to be a little hard to read, you can change the row height in here. Like if I go to format and I go to row height, maybe I'll change that from 15 to 20, and maybe that'll make it a little more readable. I'd have to check to see if APA allows banding in the columns. I don't recall. I don't think they do, but that might help. And if you want to add bands in your data, you have to hire one. I'm kidding. You go up to you go to formulas data. You have to do this. If you want to have banded columns, you have to highlight your entire table, and then you go up to our friend insert, and you actually have to insert a table. You create this thing and generate a table. This can be very useful for a variety of operations. Just make sure that you've highlighted your entire table, that your table has headers, and you click on OK. And now it gives you this hateful looking table right here. But you can go up to here, because you're on table design. You can go up here and hit the down arrow and select maybe a gray table like this, or the one that I prefer looks like that. And so now you've got a table that at least people can hopefully read. So what have we done so far? I started by generating a bunch of fake data from here using rand between. I took these data and I generated descriptive statistics out of it, as you see here. I made some modifications to the table. I used my transpose function to make this, and then I cleaned it up and I tried to make it look as APA-like as I could. And let me see if it'll allow me to turn off the filters. Yeah, good. And so it looks somewhat manageable. Now, to generate a really simple, very simple chart out of this, I will select assessment and mean. We'll see if this works easily or not. But I'm going to select the assessment and the mean, and I'm going to go up to insert. And from the insert column, I'll go all the way over to the chart, and I'll click on it. And I'm going to pick a very simple 2D chart that you see right here, and I'll select it. And so I've calculated a handy little chart of the means for each one of my assessments. This table needs to be cleaned up. I click on the arrows right here and I delete them, and that gets rid of the lines. The next thing that I can do is I've got a choice of formats in here, or under chart design, excuse me, where I believe I can make it look black and white. There are some ways to do that, yeah, there's some grayscales that you can do in here. You can select each one and vary the colors and so forth. I think even if you double click into the chart, as you see that I've done here, I'm able to format the series. I can change the fill color of each one of these items. I can vary the color if I want to do that. And I can, as I said, I could change the colors to all gray if I needed to one by one if I want to alternate the grayscale on it. I'll just go across. So that's another trick that you can do. Now, what I think I'd like to do next is show you how to do some statistical tests off of that that data set. And so let me go back to our assessment data set right now and do that. And I'm probably going to end up going long in order to do the frequency and the percent charts, but I apologize for that.
Chris,
go ahead, Lisa.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. You know what? Our interpreters are only on until 1 o'clock. So
very well. I can record that separately and add in captioning and upload it for whatever we don't get to.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that would be terrific. Thank you.
Great. Yeah. So let me go a little quickly then and do the statistical analyses on this data set. So I'm going to click on assessment and I'm going to click on move or copy, and I'm going to create a copy of it. Again, I don't like to mess with my original data. I like to preserve the original because it's just, I think, a good practice. Under this tab, I'm going to call this regression because I'm going to do a regression with these numbers. And so, again, in order for me to do my statistical tests, I have to use the data set that is numerical. Remember how I got there? I generated all that stuff with these formulas, and then I had to copy and paste the values over into this section. If you didn't get that, just watch the first part of the video before I ran out the door to let my wife in. Oh boy. I'm going to get rid of this though. I don't need it anymore because again, this is my practice data set here, and it looks like I do need to add some columns in. So let me go ahead and do that just to put in some space. Looks like I deleted a little too far. And now what I want to do is I want to go back up to our friend, the data tab, and I'm going to use data analysis again. So let's do a regression with these data. Maybe the first thing that we could do is to do a correlation. Why don't we do that? Why don't we try a correlation first? It doesn't give us as much information, but I got time to do it and still have time for questions. So I'm going to click on OK. And again, this asks me for my my input range and labels in first row. So I'm going to select my input range. And if I'm going to be correlating things, well, I darn well better have two variables that I'm going to use. So I'm going to highlight these two columns right here. And I know that there are faster ways to do that, but that gives me a little time to think of what I need to do next. And I'm kidding. I know what to do next. I'm going to click my down arrow, make sure that I have the labels in my my first row, and my output range. I'm just going to stick it over. Looks like I'll need to do a new worksheet, whatever, and I'll call this correlation. And then I'll click on OK. And so this spits out a correlation. Let me zoom in on that. You know, it looks like there's not much of a correlation there because, again, these are all randomly generated numbers. And so, you know, it's going from assessment to assessment. That's obviously going to be a whole number. Assessment 2 to assessment 2, obviously going to be a whole number. And then we look at this, and there's only 4 cents of a correlation, but we don't know the strength of the correlation. We don't know all that stuff. You get all of that information when you actually do a regression, which is what I want to do with this thing here. So let me try to generate that on this sheet. Since I labeled it regression already, I'm going to hide these columns, highlight them, and I'm going to hide them. And I do see an interesting question in the chat that I'll answer in a moment. And I'm going to highlight those guys. And the next thing that I'm going to do is go back to our data analysis tab. Now notice I've got a lot of real estate over here to work with because I'm going to get a lot of output from this regression. So I'm going to go up to data analysis. This time I'm going to select regression, and it's alphabetical, and it says regression, and I'll click OK. And I get this dialog box that I'll just drop conveniently right here. And it's asking me for a Y and an X. And from what I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, in regressions and correlations, your X and your Y are arbitrary. It's not the case for other tests, but in this case, it is. So I know that I have labels in here. I know I want a confidence interval in here. I want the output range on the same page as where I'm at. So here's what I need to do for that. I want my output range to be right here. That's where I want it. So I selected my output range. Why don't we just generate all the stuff that comes with it so that we can look at it. So I've selected everything here. I'm going to go and select my Y, and I'm going to make this my Y. I could have made the other one my Y. I don't know why. The stupid jokes are free, everybody. Well, so is the session, really. Actually, just for the price of your tuition. I'm going to go ahead and select off assessment 2 and drag that all the way down. And let's see what we get. And here's our input range, everybody. Here's our Y, our X, all of our labels, and it's going to output all of that stuff in this left column right here, we hope. I'm going to click on OK. Let's see what we get. We get a hamster wheel. And it's because it was, doing there were a lot of numbers to calculate. And so here we have some more meaningful things that are perhaps more meaningful than we got from the initial correlation. And you can see that we do get our correlation. We get our R squared, 0. We get our probability p-values, nothing significant in here, but we even get an ANOVA, which is, you can consider that like correct me if I'm wrong, my statisticians, you can do either an ANOVA 1, which is what this is, that's comparable to a t-test. I think, I believe.
To me, you do that as the overall test of significance of your equation. If your equation's not significant, you stop there, you're done, you don't look at the variables. If your F is significant, then you say, aha, the overall significant, now I can look at the next table and see what my variables tell me.
Fantastic. And so, having said that, Lisa, I don't know, maybe toward the end, because I want to take questions. Maybe you could say whether or not you think that, in your opinion, whether this is equal to what SPSS would give students, and when you would use it and when you would not. Or you can just leave that for another day. Sorry to throw you under the bus.
I can answer right now. I think it's awesome. For a really huge data set, I'd use SPSS, but for students and really learning, it's cool. And it produces the plots quickly. I think it's awesome. But like Chris said at first, go with what your advisor wants you to do.
And so like Lisa mentioned, you do get these handy little plots and everything else. And you get the charts. So let me just sum up where we've been, and then I'll tell you where we're going. Briefly, I started with generating fake data. I copied that into and pasted the values for a table of values that I could actually use. I went to assessment. I generated assessment descriptives, and that was this table. I cleaned up the table. I transposed the table, and then I made it look more user-friendly or working toward APA. Now, there was a question that was asked about whether or not I could create a template for this. And I have to tell you that I'm not sure. I know that in Word, it's possible, but I always find that you have to mess with it anyway. If I were just to copy off this part of the table and I went over to Microsoft Word, for example, and I drop it in, which is what I typically would do, I still have to do some formatting. So I'll go here and then I will auto fit to window, and then you can see that it's fitted to the window. There are some other things that you can do in here. that I did last night, which was to resize the table. There are ways that you can, in Word, create styles in order to format tables. I think if I highlight this thing and I go under here, there is some way to do it. And if you have to bail, by all means, do so. But anyway, I'm eating up the Q&A. That's terrible of me. But the short answer to that question, after a long meandering response, is I'm not sure, but there has to be a way. There is a style thing in here, but I always find I got to mess with it. We did a regression too. I just created based on using our friend data. That's how I did the regression and how I did the descriptive statistics. We got very little out of the correlation, but that's okay because we got it in the regression, which I tell students is correlation plus prediction. And I'll let our resident statistician, Lisa, correct me if I am wrong. That's all I have, everyone. I have nothing else. Do you have any questions?
That was terrific. Questions from anybody?
Jennifer, if you want to unmute, you had a comment about graphs and so forth. So go ahead and, if you don't mind talking about this.
Yeah, so I have a bunch of stats that I've been working on for my thesis, but I also created a bunch of graphs that show just percentages and frequencies to kind of show the difference between journals that I'm studying. And I found that I could edit everything with all of the different formatting to make it I went for APA formatted for what that would be for the thesis. And then if you right click the chart itself, you can not on the data, but like the bottom corner of the chart, you can save it as a template. And so I have a whole list that it's, APA line graphs, APA bar charts, APA pie charts, APA whatever. And I've been working on learning the different styles for publication as well. So then I have a bunch of JABA or Journal of Applied Behavior Analysis, what their requirements are for tables and charts and graphs. So I found that that has saved me so much time. And so I would highly recommend utilizing it if you don't already.
I won't, I'll just say, I won't put anybody on the spot, but, if there are members of our audience who have some tips and tricks that would be worthy of maybe a presentation, perhaps ERI could consider that, because that, I didn't know about that. And I think that's really, really great. I digress. I was just throwing that out there, and then y'all can tell me, don't do stuff like that anymore. Any questions? Other questions? Let's see here. I don't see any. I don't see any questions. I'm going to stop sharing then and just look at everyone.